is Hayley Allen. Unfortunately, we live in a world where young adults are way more likely to reoffend than any other age group. 76% of criminals under 25 were rearrested after 3 years of getting out of jail. 84% of criminals under 25 were rearrested within 5 years of getting out of jail. This is really interesting because we all know a young adult in our lives and we either are or were one. Would we feel comfortable and would they feel comfortable with those odds, especially with our lack of rehabilitation programs? Now, there are many valid arguments for the opposing opinion. The one that I will talk about is by John Rogers in the controversial debate of trying juveniles as adults in the criminal justice system. Now, he talks about how trying criminals as adults, juveniles specifically as adults, can deter future crime, and it can keep teenagers from reoffending, and it can keep our communities safer, which are all very valid opinions. The one that I specifically wanted to point out was the severity of crimes committed, where I actually agree with John. He talks about how it is important to, depending on the severity of crime, where juveniles actually are tried as an adults. And I agree with that. I mean, it should be depending on the heinousness of the crime on a case-by-case basis. In my speech, I will talk about how teenagers shouldn't be tried as adults unless there are aggravating circumstances. I'll share about how, unfortunately, we don't have many opportunities for rehabilitation, and how subjecting a minor to the adult court system could provide long-lasting detrimental effects. Also, lastly, I'll talk about how teenagers aren't adults and they aren't kids either, and so they shouldn't be treated as either one. And then now I'll talk about my main point. That is the end of my introduction. Now I'm going to provide my conclusion. So in my speech, I talked about how teenagers shouldn't be tried as adults unless there are aggravating circumstances. I shared about how there are not many opportunities for rehabilitation and how subjecting a minor to adult court has detrimental effects. Lastly, I shared how teenagers aren't adults or kids either, and so they should be treated differently from those age groups. Now, if we care about our teenagers, we need to act to keep them safe and rehabilitated with the help that they need. 70% of juveniles meet the criteria for a mental disorder or a substance use disorder, and 75 to 93% of youth entering the criminal justice system has experienced trauma. These people need rehabilitation. As you can see from this slide, the majority of people prioritize rehab over punishment, which is the people for rehab is blue and the people for punishment is orange. This survey took people from all different walks of life, and they all agree that we should have a better system for rehabilitating our youth to keep them out of jail and to keep them from being tried in adult court. Unfortunately, these issues are very, very, very common and heartbreaking and can be a massive hindrance to our future generations. We need to be a good example to our teenagers by showing them kindness, love, communication, support, trust, and giving them the help and rehabilitation that they need. If we see mistreated teenagers in our lives, we need to step up and do better for our future generations and keep them out of jail. I'd like to close by sharing a quote from Erin Gwenwell from the Freedom Writer's Diary. She said, "I always say that the young people are the future of the world, and if we start with them first, if we educate and develop a sense of tolerance, confidence among them, our future, the future of this world, will be in good hands for generations to come. Teenagers are wonderful leaders, and they will be wonderful leaders, especially when we give them the rehabilitation that they deserve. Thank you.